Activity 1.6 is called Bug Blasters, and the whole purpose is to learn some debugging techniques and strategies which are going to help you with Activity 1.7 and 1.8. It does talk about what does effective teamwork look like. So if you are at a point and you've been working with a partner and it's been going really well, go ahead and continue with that partner. If you want to continue by yourself, you can continue by yourself as well. Remember, this AIA file is only able to be opened in App Inventor. It stands for App Inventor Application. You cannot open it in Google Drive. It will not load for you. It's going to take you through programming with persistence. Now, that basically is just implying and letting you know that the bugs are not necessarily going to be fixed right away. Some of these bugs are really easy in Activity 1.6, and some it's going to take a lot more time. You're going to have to try something. Try the code. Try a different way. Test it with your tablet. Shows you what bugs, errors, and then what does debugging mean. Steps for debugging code. This is going to be something you're going to want to write down. You don't have to write down the whole chart, but you do want to be aware of there are hardware or emulator connection issues. So sometimes the App Inventor application or the companion fails to work, or it does not load. You may have to restart the tablet. You may have to reset the connection in App Inventor. There's a lot of different ways that it might not work, so you have to be able to debug one of the possible reasons for why it doesn't work. Explore debugging features. The incremental approach. Now this is the first approach you should always use is to develop your code incrementally to avoid complicated debugging situations. So basically you're looking at small chunks of code or sequences of code instead of having to look at all 60 or 70 lines of code. Go in small chunks, get something fixed, then move on to the next section of code. This live programming is showing you this code right here is going to automatically live update on your tablet or your device. This sequence of code here is focused in this section right here. So if there's an error, you would look at this section of code. You're not looking at all the lines of code. You're just looking at small parts of the code. App Inventor helpful features, and this is going to show you how some of the ways you can debug your code. Warnings and errors. There's a warning message right there. Something is not correct. This shows you the socket. So this is where the warning message is. There's a warning. You can see it. It's right here. You should fill all the sockets with blocks. So these are considered the sockets. You have to put in blocks in order for the message to go away. Compilation error. Select a valid item in this drop-down menu. There's nothing listed as the variable. That's why there's an error message. The right-click menu. If you right-click on something, it pulls this menu up. So you can duplicate the code, you can add a comment, you can put the inputs in line, you can collapse blocks. This is if you had 60, 70, 80 lines of code, you can right-click, collapse it, so that you don't have to look at all the code. Disable block if you want to shut something off temporarily. The opposite works if you right-click and then it would say enable the block. Add to backpack, that's if you're going to copy code. If you want to delete all 6 blocks, right there. You can add comments. This is helpful if you're working with a partner and you're going to be gone maybe the next day. You can add a comment, and that comment is something that your partner could see the next day. There's the comment. Click again to close the comment. You just click that little box, that question mark, and then it closes for the other person. There's a lot of great strategies here, so please do take the time to read through and understand how to disable, how to enable blocks, how to really start to pick apart the code. Collapse, expand. Again, the purpose of this is to minimize all of the blocks of code that you're looking at by focusing on just specific areas of the code. So it looks just like this. If you had to look at all of your code this way, it might be easier if you could just collapse it and look at this. And it says it does not affect it during runtime. When you're running the code, it's not going to be affected because it's collapsed. Here's a good chance for you to reflect on some of your learning so far. Pair programming, it shows you 2 different rules, the driver and the navigator. Now if you are working with a partner, you're going to want to make sure that you each get a chance to practice each of the jobs. The recommendation is about 10 minutes or so being the driver, and then switch with the navigator. That way one person doesn't do all of the coding, all of the driving, and one person has to do all of the navigating. Here's a couple of quick videos that show you the different roles for how those work. When you get down here, it's going to show you step number 1, download and import the code. So I click on it to download it. I go over to App Inventor. I click Projects, Import from my computer. And then you will see this screen right here. At this point in the activity, you do want to get it connected to the tablet to see what is wrong with it. There are several errors that you have to fix. That's when you then go into blocks and you start to figure out what is wrong with it. How can I fix the code? Here's the app description. So these are all the areas that you need to fix before you bring it back to me to present it. And it's a simple checkbox, so if you figure something out, you can check it. That shows you that it's done, kind of an easy way to do a checklist for yourself. Here are some questions to answer and to think about. And when you get down here to this part, you should be able to have it fully working and you can bring it back to me to present it. An optional extension, analyze the use of the camera component in StudyBuddy. This is something you can just type in real quickly with your partner. This conclusion question, just write it down in your notes. It's not a big deal. There are a couple of questions in PowerSchool Learning that you'll need to take care of. And at this point, you should have already presented the app to me, and you should have also handed in your assignment of PowerSchool Learning. All right, thanks a lot.